Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're launching into a deep dive investigation into the invisible economic forces that are quietly but relentlessly draining your wallet. We're going to map out exactly how geopolitical events happening halfway across the globe systematically filter right down into your personal bank account. Have you ever just looked at your budget recently and thought, man, the math of my life just isn't working anymore? Your fuel costs are through the roof, your standard grocery run is suddenly costing 30% more, and your electricity bill absolutely exploding. But here's the weird part. You didn't lose your job. Your government didn't just pass some massive domestic tax hike. Yet your standard of living has undeniably dropped. So why exactly is that happening? Well, here's the reality. You are paying a hidden tax for global conflicts. Our modern world is so deeply, fundamentally interconnected that a missile fired in the Middle East, a drone attack in the Black Sea, or rising tensions in Asia, they don't just stay in those regions. A war anywhere is quite literally a tax everywhere. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to follow this ripple effect across 5 key areas: energy and shipping choke points, the secondary shockwaves, the tech threat, the systemic shift, and we'll wrap it all up with the accumulation effect. Kicking things off with ripple, 1. Energy and shipping choke points. Let's think about the immediate physical impact of geopolitical tension for a second. There is a staggering concentration of risk in the Middle East right now. Get this, a massive 20% of the entire global oil trade relies on passing through one specific, incredibly narrow waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. That leaves 80% for literally all other global routes combined. This tiny waterway is a massive vulnerability, meaning any disruption or conflict there instantly surges oil prices across the whole globe. And this brilliantly illustrates why that sudden price surge matters directly to you. Because oil isn't just the gas you put in your car, right? It's the foundational building block of our modern economy. It impacts everything: transportation, food production, fertilizers, manufacturing, aviation, electricity, shipping, you name it. When oil goes up, trucking gets more expensive, flying becomes a luxury, and manufacturing costs just skyrocket. It acts as an immediate, heavy, hidden tax on everyday consumers. Which brings us to Ripple 2, the secondary shockwaves. We can actually connect those initial energy disruptions directly to the food on your dinner table through a pretty brutal step-by-step chain reaction. First, energy disruptions make fertilizer incredibly expensive to produce. Because it's so expensive, farmers are forced to use less of it. Now, less fertilizer means crop production naturally falls. And finally, a shrinking food supply means food prices rise. This is exactly how an energy shock thousands of miles away directly hikes the price of your rice, your meat, and your milk. And it's not just the food itself, it's how everything actually gets to you. There is an absolute golden rule in global trade. The customer always pays for shipping disruptions. Always. When major sea routes are threatened by conflict, those massive cargo ships don't just stop in their tracks, they take huge detours to avoid the danger. Those longer routes require more fuel, higher insurance premiums, and sometimes even extra security. The shipping companies definitely aren't absorbing those costs. They add them directly to the price tag of your clothes, your new smartphone, and your refrigerator. Take the Russia-Ukraine war as a perfect real-world example of this macro to micro pipeline. Just look at what this one regional conflict managed to disrupt: energy supplies, global grain exports, critical fertilizer supplies, and long-established trade routes. It undeniably proves that a localized war creates long-lasting global inflation. It rewires trade and hikes costs across entire continents. Moving right along to Ripple 3, the tech threat. The focal point here is Taiwan, which produces a truly staggering share of the world's advanced semiconductors. These tiny little chips literally run our modern world. They power our smartphones, computers, everyday cars, advanced AI systems, life-saving medical equipment, and even military tech. We are entirely dependent on a smooth, uninterrupted supply of these components. Which is exactly why experts warn that a disruption around Taiwan could easily exceed the economic impact of previous global conflicts. If the shipping of semiconductors stops, the ripple effect would be downright catastrophic. We're not just talking about your next phone being a bit pricier. We're looking at soaring electronics prices across the board and a potential total collapse in global car production, simply because modern vehicles cannot be built without these chips. Now, let's zoom out a bit for Ripple 4, the systemic shift. So the crucial point here is that we aren't just dealing with temporary blips. We're witnessing permanent macro-level changes leading straight to something called stagflation. Stagflation is basically an ugly word for a painful economic combo of higher prices and slower growth. Normally, when economies slow down, central banks lower interest rates to help out. But when wars continually drive energy and commodity prices higher, inflation forces central banks to do the exact opposite. They have to raise rates. Borrowing becomes hugely expensive, business investment stalls out, and growth weakens, all while prices stay stubbornly high. It is literally the worst of both worlds. And how do governments react to this? As global tensions rise, the universal response is to authorize much higher defense budgets. But that money has to come from somewhere. For citizens like us, it either results in higher taxes and more national debt, or it forces reduced public spending. That means less funding for your local infrastructure, less for your schools, and less for healthcare. It's this slow, quiet degradation of your everyday living standards. We are fundamentally shifting eras right now. Think about it. The past was all about maximum efficiency. Globalization meant manufacturing products wherever costs were the absolute lowest, keeping prices nice and cheap for consumers. But the present era, it's all about maximum resilience. Governments now want supply chains restricted to trusted partners or domestic factories to ensure national security. This improves security for sure, but at a heavily increased cost. The era of incredibly cheap goods is quickly being replaced by an era of strategic fragmentation. Let's bring the whole shebang together with our conclusion: the accumulation effect. Here's the real kicker. The real danger isn't just one isolated event happening in a vacuum. We are dealing with Middle East instability, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Red Sea shipping disruptions, US-China rivalry, and Taiwan tensions, all at the exact same time. It's the combined friction of all these overlapping shocks that is the real threat. Every single one adds a layer of cost. Every single one makes logistics harder. When millions of people experience all these overlapping disruptions simultaneously, it acts as a permanent, heavy, hitting tax on your purchasing power. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The battlefield may be far away, but the bill eventually arrives at everyone's doorstep. The next time you see prices creeping up at the grocery store or the gas pump, remember this explainer. You're seeing the real-world cost of a fractured globe. It really makes you wonder, as the world prioritizes resilience over efficiency, just how high will that final bill be? Keep asking questions, keep looking at the bigger picture, and we'll see you in the next explainer.